Hello Professor, my name is SLimbu and my student ID is 8952046, and in this video I'll be explaining the lab scenario that I've done for the Windows deployment automation lab. For this lab I've used two Windows server. One is acting as a domain controller and the DHCP host. So basically this domain controller or this Windows 2000 server is running the Active Directory services and the DHCP server, and we have also configured the DNS for on this Windows server. And for the second part, I've configured the Windows deployment services on the second servers, which is our WDS server, and I have connected this server to the info8046.local domain, which is our first server. So for this demo, we have used a pre-configured file called the answer file, which has all the settings that users need to input while they are trying to configure or when they are trying to automate the Windows installation process. So by using this process, like we can install the Windows into any desktop computers or any hardware without actually using the ISO file or the setup file for each of the setup process. Instead of that, we just configure the server, then we just connect it through the network, and the setup will complete by itself. So going for the demo, we are going to create a new Windows machine and we will call it auto deploy Windows, and we're just going to configure all the storage and everything else. This is our Windows 10 64-bit. To make the process fast, I'll just increase the memory and process, and the hard disk will be thin provision. And here we need to make sure like we use the VMX net, which we have configured in our WDS server. Basically the ISO is modified so that the ISO file of the setup is modified so that the any configuration that needs to be done is on the system is automated. So let's just first start this VM, then I'll explain about the process that is happening at the back, and we'll power it on. Okay, so once we'll press F2 for the network boot, and it's using the boot.wim file for starting the setup process. Basically what we have done is we have used a ISO file, and we just picked some of the components that needs to be set up manually during this installation process, and we just configure all those files to set it up by itself, like selecting the language or partitioning the hard drive. So we just automated the entire process, and also like these are the set of files that we selected. Now while these are the set of files that will be used to install the Windows, and also this is our domain and the domain controller username and password. So basically this username and password will be used to connect the computer to the domain while the setup is being run by the automation process. And this is our local username and our local username and password, which is like encrypted for now. So if you can see here, like the partitioning was done by itself because we did not do any input. We just skipped the hard disk partition, which was a part of the automation process. So we'll just wait for this to complete, then we'll go through the next steps. So basically what the next step would be like configuring username, and after the username is configured and user is able to log in, you should connect to the domain. It should be connected to the domain by itself. So we'll just wait for this to complete and see if it works or not. So if we go through the questions, it says the same thing, or this key is on the left side. So the two requirement is to like set up the DHCP server, and we need the local administrator group for this process I haven't created any other user. Instead I've used the domain controller username and password itself. And the second step is configuring the deployment server services, which we have used on the server 2 over here. Then all this part 2 and part 3 is like configuring the ISO image. We just select the ISO image for the WDS server, then we pick the installation file from the ISO image also, then we add a boot image, then we also add the network adapter for our vSphere. So we need to make sure like we do this step so that we are able to communicate with the VMware network, and the ISO file is accessible while we're doing this setup. And we just configure the network adapter, we added it to the package. And the test deployment is for this particular lab. Instead for the assignment we are just skipping this part, and we just use the Windows Assessment Deployment Kit to configure all the automation process, or to configure the answer file which we are using on this setup right now. So after creating the answer file according to the test 2 questions or the test 2 parameters, we uploaded the file to the install Windows 10 install on unattended folder. Then we configure the WDS server to use that image while setting up the Windows. So on our left we can see that our setup is completed, so it's restarting. So basically at this point this is where it will ask you to like create users and everything else. So if our automation script is working, then that should be skipped, and it should be already set up for us using the answer file. And the username over there is Sushant for me, for my username, and the password is secret55. So we'll just check if that works or not once this step is completed. So we'll just wait for a while. And this is everything that we have done till now. So it's taking quite a while to set up everything else, so just wait for it to complete. Okay, so it's rebooting again, and we should be able to log in any moment now. Okay, so some more configurations. So basically at the background or the back end, so everything that we have configured in the answer file is being configured into the system right now, which is taking the time. So we'll just have to wait and watch for the end result to see if it works or not. Okay, so we'll just select our region, and everything on this page can also be automated, but that is beyond the scope of our test 2. So I haven't configured anything for this one. So as you can see, like the network is detected and it's saying that it's configuring something by itself. So it says sit back and relax while work on our magic. So just wait for it to complete. So now is the part where the answer file comes into play, or like it's coming into play from the start of the process. But at this point the user creation and everything would be done at this moment, and the domain would be joined, or this computer would be joined to the domain controller according to the answer file or the test 2 parameters. Okay, system is rebooting, so the setup process should be done by now, and we should be able to see my username where I will be prompted for a password, and we are going to input the password that we set up on the answer file, which is the secret55. And in my case, if we will just accept this end user agreements. So in my case, if you go and look at the answer file, the password to the domain is different from others or on the test2, which is secret55. So basically, when I promoted the domain controller, or when I promoted the Windows server to a domain controller, it asks me to update my password, which is why I've used the vclass123, and that is the reason it is not the secret55, or it is different from the test2. So we are just going to log in. As you can see, it says Sushant. We did not give any input while creating user, so it is already created. We are going to use the password secret55, which we have created on the answer file, and we just log in, and we are able to log in. So I'll just show you the partition and the domain once this setup is done, this initial setup is done. So basically, we have configured, or we have achieved our test2's requirement, which is to use an answer file or an unattended setup using the Windows deployment service. So as you can see, the internet is connected, and the domain info 8046.local is also connected. And if you go into my computers, I can see that Windows local C drive is partitioned, and it's labeled as Windows, and the entire partition is used according to our answer file. And that will be all for this video. Thank you.